agency, otherwise known as CruiseExperts.com for those of you across the country here. We will begin our presentation in just a moment. We're giving some people an opportunity to jump on here at the last minute, and we'll begin in about 1 or 2 minutes. So hang on. It's going to be a great presentation this morning. Thanks.
Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone who's joining us today for Online Alaska. I'm Wes Rowland. I'm the president of Great Vacations Travel Group and CruiseExperts.com. We are really privileged to come to you today and partner with Holland America Line. And I'd like to introduce to you longtime friend Monty. I don't know if you remember that we'd met when we did Onstage Alaska a number of years ago in person. Today with technology, we can be all over the world and all over the U.S., but so pleased to be with you today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Monty Davis, who's called Alaska home since 1971. I have done a number of in-person presentations with Monty and Joanne. He's an active member of the visitor industry in Alaska since 1989, and I can tell you that he has and they have just a great passion and knowledge for the great land of Alaska. So you're really, really in for a treat today. This seminar is about education. This is about information. This is to help give you guidance to make an informed choice of how you wish to experience Alaska. And we here at the Cruise Experts have a wonderful team of travel advisors who all have a passion for Alaska, and we desire hopefully to work with you and help give you the guidance and expertise that you need to get your trip to Alaska planned. So I'm going to turn the platform over today to Monty and just give you a warm welcome and a standing ovation here and say, Monty, it's all yours. I'll look forward to being with you at the close of the presentation.
Thank you, Wes. I appreciate that. And good afternoon and good morning, everybody. I come to you today from the beautiful city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, actually out on the road with my lovely bride, doing Onstage Alaska presentations all the way across America and Canada. So I'm thrilled to be with you. There's almost nothing I like better than making sure that people who are making this decision to come and see our state are able to do so with really good information so that they're making fully informed decisions. We recognize it's a long-haul destination. You know, it's not just a weekend getaway, so the best information that you can have, we are very proud to give you. Well, for some reason my screen doesn't want to change. There we go. Technology. Folks, as Wes said, my name is Monty Davis, and Alaska has been my home since 1971. There's a picture of myself and my puppet dog, Handsome, Mr. Handsome Pants, We're here today to give you information on my home, and the one thing I will start with is I can promise you I don't care how good I can make this sound, and I have to admit I'm a braggart. I don't care how good I can make this sound or how good we can make it look. Alaska, you will find when you get there, is better than that. I always tell people looking at Alaska through photographs or even on the television is kind of like looking at it through a keyhole. You really just can't get the whole thing until you get there. And one of the things we always like to start with, because very few people actually know how big Alaska is, and this map that you're looking at is one of the reasons why. So often our weathermen, or even in a lot of books, you'll see this map showing Alaska down here. You know, we're just a southern state, just south of Arizona there, about the same size as Arizona. So I'm going to put a map of Alaska over the lower 48 so that you can see how big my state actually is. It goes from coast to coast. I have people all the time say, what's the weather going to be like? And I always want to say, I don't know, are you going to Florida or are you going up into Minnesota? Are you going to South Carolina or San Francisco? So you get an idea how big we are. We have more shoreline than the rest of the United States combined. Not only are we the farthest north and the farthest west of the United States, but again, if you look on any atlas or globe, you'll see if they hadn't actually bent the international date line out around the end of the Aleutian chain, we would also be the farthest east of the United States. And I would also like to let you know that I'm really proud today to be here representing Holland America Line and Cruise Experts. Holland America has been coming to Alaska since before we were a state. And as Wes said, I've been actively involved in the Alaska visitor industry since 1989. It is a commonly held belief throughout Alaska that without Holland America, we would not have the tourism industry that we do today. You would not see all of these other lines that are now coming to Alaska and all the choices that you have. But I'm going to point out a few things to you today that I call separators, the reason why you should choose to come to Alaska with Holland America. And the first one is on the screen there, the Yukon Territory. They're kind of like our sister state. We go there for vacations. They come to Alaska on vacation. We're very close with the Yukoners, and Holland America is the only major cruise line that actually gives you the opportunity to include the Yukon on your land and sea journey. To a longtime Alaskan, I can tell you that is an indicator to me that these folks really know what they're doing. And they don't just bring you there and take you up to the hottest and nearest spots. They're willing to make sure that you have the opportunity to truly explore what we call the Great Land. 4 reasons that people come to see Alaska. These are the 4. They're not in any given order, but certainly the wilderness. I wish I could put into words what it's like when you get a chance to travel through the Alaska wilderness. People say it is very spiritual. I say it is wonderfully humbling. You get a sense of what this land was like long before man ever got here. You have the opportunity in Alaska to get up in a small plane, and you will see that the road or the railroad that you are traveling on is the only road. It's not like there's one every mile or they crisscross. You know, once you get out into that wilderness, the way that you're moving is probably the only form of transportation through that area, not counting flying over it. And of course, you have to experience that wilderness if you're going to see our wildlife, although I do tell people all the time, if you really want to see wildlife, you need to come to Anchorage on a Saturday night. Seriously, people do come to see our wildlife. The big 4 that people like to see, this is moose. That is a fully grown bull moose. Anchorage Bowl itself has a moose population of about 800. This is caribou. Denali National Park is the best place to see them in numbers. They're the only member of the deer family that both male and female grow antlers. This is Dall sheep. Again, Denali National Park is the place to see them. They were the reason actually Denali was originally established as a park and preserve, was to save that flock of sheep. And then of course everybody wants at least the opportunity to see the ferocious grizzly bear. And I know he doesn't look too ferocious, but Mama is not far away. We have over 100,000 glaciers in the state of Alaska. And I wish, again, that I could put into words what it is like, folks, but I hope you have the opportunity at some point to experience our glaciers. And specifically, I just love Glacier Bay National Park. I hate the thought that people come all the way to Alaska and then not see Glacier Bay. And that's because it's so much more than just the glacier experience, although the glacier experience, especially in Glacier Bay, is spectacular. But on one of my trips, which I've done this cruise 8 different times, I counted 67 humpback whales that we saw on the way into Glacier Bay. You have to be out there on the bow of the ship and paying attention, but as I say, it's so much more than just a glacier experience. And then, of course, Denali, the mountain and the park. The mountain at 20,320 feet is the highest point in North America. What most people don't realize, though, is not counting the big island of Hawaii, Denali is the tallest mountain on the planet. So the mountains K2, Everest, that go up to 29,000 feet or so, actually start 15,000 feet above sea level and go up another 14 or 15,000 feet. Denali actually starts right at about 400 feet above sea level. It goes straight up for 4 miles. So even where we live in Anchorage, we're 180 miles south of it as the crow flies, and on a clear day when that mountain is out, from 180 miles away, there's no question, you are seeing Denali in the native tongue actually means the great one or the high one. And it certainly lives up to its name. And I would like to just interject right here. I know that a lot of you are here hoping to learn about that wonderful Alaska cruise, and I am going to talk about the cruise, but if you want to see the Alaska that most of us Alaskans know and love and call home, I would implore you to please consider do a land and sea journey. You cannot see Denali from the ship. It's 300 miles inland from the nearest port, so it can't be done in a day. I just want you to consider doing a land and sea journey. When you're on that cruise, as I say, you will see humpback whales. If you're paying attention, you will see glaciers, but if you've always pictured Alaska maybe as something like this, then you need to get off the ship and do a land and sea journey. So let's talk about that. 3 different ways you can experience Alaska with Holland America Line. The first of which is our 7 or 14-day Alaska cruises. I always kid with people and say if you can only cruise, if you can only take 7 days, we call that your first trip to Alaska, because we have people who come back time after time after time, and this is one of the reasons why. Take a look at that incredibly beautiful picture. When you sail with Holland America, or actually any of the companies coming to Alaska, but specifically Holland America, you get to travel up what's known as the Inside Passage. You can kind of see where I'm kind of guiding my mouse there. Over 11,000 barrier islands. You might as well be cruising on a river. Don't let somebody tell you there's a better place to have your room. There are mountains and scenery on both sides of the ship. It's more like river cruising most of the time. I mean, there's a lot of times when you feel as though you could throw a rock and hit land on either side of the ship. And it's calm, scenic cruising. We'll be experiencing somewhere between 15 and 21 hours of daylight when you come to visit us. So not only do you never run out of scenery, you never run out of daylight to actually get to enjoy that scenery. You can have dinner at 8 o'clock at night, and at 10 o'clock, 10:30, decide that you'd like to walk the promenade deck, and you would still have plenty of daylight to get out there and actually enjoy that promenade deck. So very different than most other places in the world where the sun sets at 5:30 and you're getting ready for dinner, and there's everything at that point focuses inward on the ship. As a matter of fact, it's one of the differences, again, another separator that I call with Holland America Line. They're the only major cruise line that is still designing their ships with scenic cruising in mind. They have continued to build that wraparound promenade deck. You can go out on the bow of the ship, and I always like to point out to people, this is a sea otter. He's about 6 to 8 feet long when fully grown. I want you to try and picture. I always encourage people to get a veranda when they're in Alaska. It's a wonderful experience when you're at the glacier, but to be able to go out on the bow of the ship as Holland America allows you, I just want you to try and picture what this 6 to 8 foot long otter looks like from your 9th or 10th floor balcony. You know, you look down and go, oh, look, honey, there's a dot on the water. So when you can get down on as close to them as on the bow of the ship, you have an opportunity to actually see them. You get a chance to see that seals have hauled out on the little icebergs, the bergy bits as they are known, in front of the glaciers, that a bald eagle has landed on one. So it's so much more than it's that open space on Holland America's ships. Not plus the fact that they have more permits to go into Glacier Bay than anybody else. So, oops, I'm going to move this. Darn it, am I hitting the wrong one? Sorry, folks. Holland America's award-winning food and service, astounding to me. I absolutely love the fact that they're mid-sized ships, so you're not sailing with 4,000 other people. There is another company that claims they're #1 in Alaska, and I always say, yeah, because their ships are twice the size. So it's kind of easy to say we took more people when you have twice as many people on every single ship. Holland America is grandfathered in places like Juneau, where you can go zip lining should you choose to, Ketchikan, where you can visit the parks. You can fly in and land on a glacier and ride the sled dogs, or you can be as inactive as you choose to be. I spent a day on the ship one time with an elderly couple I was escorting, never left the ship in Juneau, and we watched. I pointed out bald eagles to them landing because Holland America's grandfathered in right downtown. Look at these puppies. Sorry, they always distract me. This is when you do the fly in and land on the glacier and the sled dogs. They always put these puppies in your arms, and then before they let you leave, they count them. They will not let you go before they counted the puppies. So that's that inside passage. It is a rainforest. It's whales. It is spectacular. Again, I have lived in Alaska since 1971, and never can quite remember if we got there in January of 70 or 71, but I have done this cruise 8 times and would go again tomorrow. It is that spectacular. So now let's talk about the Denali land and sea journeys. This is where you do a 7-day cruise and you add what we know in Alaska as the rail belt onto your package. You get an opportunity to ride the train either to or from Denali. This is the Alaska Railroad on Holland America's McKinley Explorer rail cars, the largest rail cars ever built for passenger rail cars, double-decker, beautiful domed rail cars. This lady here is looking out the other side. I mean, it's 360-degree view. You can go downstairs for breakfast or at lunch and still have great views, spectacular scenery through the Alaska wilderness. And when you arrive at Denali National Park, which is being outlined here, excuse me, 6.2 million acres. So again, I just want to give you a little bit of perspective. The Grand Canyon would fit inside it 6 times. And there's one road into the park. It is true wilderness. It is the only one of our national parks that since day one we have managed the visitors, how many of us and how we go into the park, rather than any aspect of the park. So it is a completely natural, intact ecosystem. The land is as it has been for thousands and thousands of years. And we have an opportunity to go in and be visitors, be observers of this land. I mean, at one of my trips into the park, a mother bear decided that she was going to feed her 3 cubs on the road, and nothing moved for 45 minutes because that is it's their land. We are the visitors there, and so they have complete right-of-way. Oh, and I've done this particular trip, the Tundra Wilderness Tour, probably a dozen times, and every time had scenes like this, not necessarily right on the road, but certainly close. Grizzly bears, mama and her 2 cubs. Folks, for 10 years, my wife and I did a show in Anchorage, and we heard people say they were disappointed when they went to Denali National Park because they went into the park, they didn't get to see the mountain, they didn't get to see any wildlife. This top blue line here is what 95% of the companies offer. It's called the Natural History Tour. It only goes 16 miles into the park. I don't know how else to say it nicely, but it's the wrong tour. And yet here we are 30 years later, and this is the tour that 95% of the companies coming to Alaska put you on. And it's because they don't give you enough time there for you to actually take your time and do what would be the correct tour, which is this one, the Tundra Wilderness Tour that goes 62 miles into the park. You might have somebody say to you, do you really want to spend 8 hours on a school bus? And I would say to you emphatically, yes, you do. Would you drive all the way to Disneyland and then stay in the parking lot? I don't think so. And to me, this is all the difference in the world. Holland America includes the Tundra Wilderness Tour on all of their double or triple Denali departures. It's included in the price. So again, for me, this is a separator, and it's obvious to a longtime Alaskan, this company knows what they're doing. They don't just take you there, they take you there and then show you the best there is for you to see when you get there. If you're lucky, at the end of the natural history tour, here is your view of Denali. Do you see it back there? Kind of sticking out above the mountains. At the end of the Tundra Wilderness Tour, here's your view of Denali. And again, just for perspective, we're about 40 miles from the base of the mountain at this point. So again, just all the difference in the world, and this is another separator for me with Holland America Line. So we're going to move on to Yukon and Denali, land and sea journeys. And I want to be honest with you, this is one of my absolute favorites. Again, the Yukon is a hidden gem. Lots of us have heard of it. Not many people consider going there. There's a famous poet named Robert Service who wrote a poem called Spell of the Yukon. And it is an absolutely spectacular poem and certainly puts into words the magic and mystery of this place. This is the Yukon Territory. I've just outlined it there. It's a little larger than the state of California. 35,000 people call it home. I'm going to say that again, 35,000 people in this entire area, larger than the state of California. I think I saw 35,000 people at Lowe's yesterday. At least it felt like it. 25,000 of them live within 10 miles of Whitehorse, which is the capital. So you can just imagine how much true wilderness is left there. There's a word you've heard your entire lives. That word is vast. When you get a chance to go to the Yukon, you will finally understand that word. In the past, if you wanted to go, you had to really mean it because it was a 2-hour motor coach ride from Fairbanks to Dawson City. I'm sorry, 2-day motor coach ride from Fairbanks to Dawson City or vice versa, depending on which way you were going. 2 years ago, Holland America changed that so they could make it more accessible to everybody. Now it's a 1-hour flight. And I want to make sure that you understand when you're on these land portions of the journey, you do not schlep your luggage. You're not checking into or out of hotels. They will tell you, please have your luggage outside your door at 7:30 in the morning. They give you the proper tags. Somebody comes by and picks that up, puts it on a truck. You go about your business, get on the motor coach, go do your tours for the day, and when you get off at the next hotel, as you're getting off the coach, somebody will be standing there saying, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, let's see, you're in room 210. Okay, here's your key, and when you go up to room 210 and open the door, there is your luggage. Even this flight from Fairbanks to Dawson, they take the motor coach right out onto the tarmac on the Fairbanks Airport. You walk off the motor coach and onto the plane, and an hour later, you're in Dawson City. They do have TSA agents in Dawson. They just happen to be Holland America employees. So they have to do double duty because there's just nobody else there. If you do add the Yukon, you'll have the opportunity to ride the entire length of the White Pass and Yukon Railway. 8 out of the last 15 years, it's been voted the #1 shore excursion in the world. Absolutely spectacular. You'll have a chance to ride Holland America's Explorer coaches. Normally, these have 54 seats on them. In the Yukon, they've taken out 10 of those seats. So it's first-class leg room. I call it casual luxury. You get to go through this incredible country in absolute luxury and yet get to experience this wonderful wild place. Dawson City, one of my favorite spots on the planet because it's a throwback. It is not a tourist trap. They don't have enough tourism for it to be that. But it sprang up during the gold rush, the Klondike Gold Rush, 1898. It sits at the confluence of the Klondike and Yukon rivers where the Klondike flows into the Yukon. Boardwalks, the streets are not paved. I love saying this, they have real false front buildings. These are the nicest ones in town right here because that's Holland America's hotel. Truly a throwback, folks, and one of the quietest, most serene places on the planet. Absolutely spectacular vistas throughout the Yukon. I really hope you will consider adding the Yukon. So insider tips, one of the things that we talk about with folks, you're going to be surprised as you travel north in Alaska in the summertime, it gets warmer and drier. Southeast Alaska, where you cruise, is a rainforest. Anchorage in south central Alaska is semi-arid, and as you travel north into the interior, Denali National Park and Fairbanks are actually classified as an Arctic desert. So warmer and drier as you travel north. What we always tell people is layers, layers, layers. We learned this from the Alaskan natives. They always dressed in layers because the motto is you can peel like an onion. This gentleman has on a t-shirt, a flannel shirt, an outer flannel, and then this last layer is windproof and rainproof and probably breathes. He has a hat and gloves. And notice where he has them on, folks. It's in Southeast. He's right in front of the glacier at this point. So, you know, on the cruise, on land, you know, we would encourage you to take a small day pack. Make sure that you have for each person a pair of binoculars. You don't want to try to share them. My wife and I tried that once, and we about broke each other's necks sometimes while we were both trying to see the same thing. So all the way down to shorts. Notice these folks have shorts. You get up into Fairbanks, they see 70, 75, 80-degree days throughout the summer. It will surprise you how incredibly beautiful it is. And this is a picture in Southeast, that rainforest, how plush green it is. So if you dress in layers, you will be prepared for whatever comes. You'll be prepared for a day like this when, you know, even if you're there on a sunny day, there's a lot of ice around you, you know. I mean, it can be 70 degrees but still feel chilly. Most people absolutely love it, you know, that it's just so refreshing. I also like to tell people, please don't try to plan your trip around what you think is going to be the 2 best weeks of weather, and please don't let somebody tell you that there is a best 2 weeks of weather. I'm going to give you a couple of statistics. In Anchorage, July statistically is the warmest month. It averages 0.3 degrees warmer than June. 0.6 degrees warmer than either May or August. So literally less than a degree difference average temperature in those months. And folks, I've been there 45 years. So if somebody tells you they went up there a couple of years ago and, you know, whatever you do, go the last 2 weeks of June, or whatever you do, don't go the last 2 weeks of June, and that's my point. You know, there's not a magic 2 weeks. What you want to do is go when you can spend the most time. It's that simple. It's the one thing that Joe and I heard over the 10 years that we did our show in Anchorage. We just wish we'd have spent more time. We heard it. We didn't believe it. Now that we're here, we regret that we didn't turn 10 days into 12, 12 days into 14, 14 into 16. So please come when you can spend the most time. That being said, there are some differences in the seasons. Early in the season, from May into June, we're gaining 5 to 6 minutes of daylight every single day. So the foliage, the wildflowers, the trees are going absolutely crazy. Some nights you can go to bed and wake up in the morning and the trees have just suddenly gone and they're filled with leaves. It is astounding. The wildlife is moving from their winter to summer habitats. Wonderful time to visit Alaska. During mid-June all the way through mid-August is the height of our season. Everybody who's driving up, everybody who's coming with kids gets there, but it is, again, a marvelous time to visit, no question about it. If you've always wanted to see that midnight sun, this is the time. From mid-June to mid-August, it really never gets dark. The sun does set, but it kind of goes right down behind the mountains and comes right back up. And then from mid-August into September, our fall season, it starts to get dark again. Now we're on the other side of what I was talking about in May. We're losing 3 to 4 minutes, then 5 to 6 minutes of daylight. Once it gets dark, you will have the opportunity to see the northern lights. You can leave a northern lights wake-up call at any hotel on the ship. And next year, by the way, will be a fabulous year. It's an 11-year cycle. Sunspots and sun flares on the sun is what actually causes northern lights. So if that's something on your wish list, you know, then make sure that you go in the next couple of years. They will be declining from here on out. So I want to talk briefly about the brochure and hopefully help you to make sense of it. Page 63 in your brochure, if you have one. If you don't, it's the Alaska cruises. The only ones I want to point out to you are those Glacier Discovery cruises. The rest of them are pretty self-explanatory. Round trip Seattle, round trips Vancouver. But the Glacier Discovery cruises are one way to Vancouver to Seward. So if maybe a family reunion is what you're looking at, what almost always happens with a group like that is that some of the people can only cruise, some of them want to do land and sea. These Glacier Discovery cruises, one way from Vancouver to Seward or Seward to Vancouver, are the ones that you can add the land on. So hopefully that will help you there. Darn it, I keep hitting the wrong button there. The Denali journeys, D1 and D2, are triple Denali departures. So 3 full days at Denali National Park. And again, folks, I cannot tell you, there is so much to do in and around Denali. It might sound like a lot, but you will appreciate the leisure, because you're going to want to spend some time just sitting out and watching the eagles fly above you up on the top of the ridge. But you also can be as active or as inactive as you choose to be. There's lots of free things to do. They have dog sled demonstrations and so on, or you can go whitewater rafting, and certainly I hope you have the opportunity to hop on an airplane and maybe go up and land on Ruth Glacier, on Denali itself, and get an experience like that. You'll never forget it. You'll never forget it. So D1 and D2 are triple Denali departures. D3, 4, 5, and 6 are double Denali departures. D3 gives you the opportunity to spend an extra day in Seward, Alaska, which you can then do the Kenai Fjords National Park tour. I took my mama on this for her 75th birthday 10 years ago now, actually, and we counted a young whale came completely out of the water 17 times in a row. I've never forgotten it. And again, this is one of those trips I've probably done a dozen times and would go again tomorrow given the opportunity. Now the Yukon and Denali land and sea journeys, again, this is another one of those Holland America separators, folks. Why one if you have the opportunity? 20 days. So I know, it's not going to be for most people, but what's so lovely about this particular one is not only does it take you everywhere, but you get a chance to spend time there. It's 2 days in Anchorage, 3 days in Denali, 2 days in Fairbanks, 2 days in Dawson City, and then 2 days in Whitehorse. So you'll get to do all of the different tours that are included, and then have another day at least to just kind of go, okay, I want to do nothing, or I would like to do this, I would like to visit this museum, I would like to, I've always wanted to go dog sledding here, we'll do this. That's Y1. Y2, 3, Y2 is also a triple Denali, but what I want to talk about is Y2, 3, 4, and 5. This is unique to Holland America. We almost always have some folks, and I will be honest, usually they're men who are just not sure that they want to cruise. They're just not sure if that's something they want to do. Y2, 3, 4, and 5 will give you the opportunity to see all of Alaska and the Yukon, and then, if you'll pardon the pun, dip your toe in the water as far as the cruising, because it's either a 3 or a 4-day cruise. So you'll have the opportunity to see the inside passage, no question about it. But again, if you're just not sure that you really want to spend 7 days on a cruise ship, I believe that once you do it, because I felt the same way, then you're going to see the joy of it. But for starters, I hope that this at least will interest you, because you can, as I say, see all of Alaska and the Yukon in one fell swoop, and then only do a 3 or a 4-night cruise. Now, because you folks are here, this says On Stage Alaska, but because you're attending this webinar, you will be privileged to onboard value booklet up to $350 per person. It will automatically show up in your stateroom, so it will be there on your bed. Again, this is a coupon book, and some of them you'll use and some of them you won't, but there's some really good ones in there. But most importantly also, you will qualify for onboard credit. If you cruise only, it's $25 per person for the first 2 people in the room. Denali land and sea journeys are $50 per person, and if you do a Yukon land and sea journey, it's $100 per person. If you've not cruised before, the shipboard credit is basically money on your onboard account, so you can do spas, shore excursions, you can buy wine packages. There's a number of opportunities on board the ship to spend money, and it is a cashless society. So when you first get on board the ship, you give them a credit card, and then you go throughout the week, you just give them your room key when you purchase anything, if you purchase a wine with dinner or a cocktail or something like that. And then, of course, at 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday night, they very quietly slip a bill under your door. So this will be money that is actually on that bill that they take off of the total balance. And right now, and you only have a couple more days to take advantage of this, there is an opportunity called Explore 4. This is one of Holland America's biggest sales during the year. It's a free signature beverage package, so even if you don't drink, this is $50 per person for the first 2 people in a room. So it says up to $1,400 value because that would be for a 14-day cruise. But even on a 7-day cruise, this is a $700 value. Even if you don't drink, though, we're talking about your specialty coffees, any sodas that you drink on board the ship, so any bottled water, anything like that would go onto this. So it's $50 per person per day, a free Pinnacle Grill dinner for 2, $58 value, free or reduced fares for the 3rd or 4th guest in a room, so if you're thinking about maybe taking your grandchildren, and 50% reduced deposit. And then again, if that idea of a suite, which is a veranda, that's what Holland America calls them, you receive an additional $300 onboard credit per stateroom and a free Canaletto dinner. That's their other specialty dining room. So right now, I always love doing this, but wait, there's more. Julie was not even aware of this because they just introduced it. Early in the season, they are offering double Onstage Alaska shipboard credits. These are select early season departures from what I have been told, and I haven't seen the list yet, but it's some of their sailings up to June 15th. Cruise Experts will have the complete list, so if that time of the year is attractive to you, and it is a wonderful time to be visiting Alaska, you can take advantage of this and double down on these shipboard credits. So I'm done with my portion of it. I hope I haven't gone too long. I'm going to turn it back over to Wes, and I believe we're probably going to open up for questions.
Thank you, Monty. It was tremendous. And ladies and gentlemen, if you do have questions at this point, it's a great time to type it in. Julie is the moderator, and she will see those, and we're certainly happy to answer any questions here as we close the presentation shortly. And certainly you're welcome to call us with questions, and so we can interact person to person. But Monty, I want to thank you. You know, I've been to Alaska a number of times. We've sent thousands of people there through the years, and every time my enthusiasm is I re-engage, and it's like, you're right, it's like I'm hearing it for the first time and learn something valuable, many things valuable every time, and I want to leave tomorrow, I got to tell you.
I know.
I appreciate the great information, and not just information, but the passion, and ladies and gentlemen, I just have to say that if you haven't been to Alaska, we all think we have forever, and it's just the time is now. There's never been a better time, and I have to tell you that we've partnered with Holland America for 20 years in these tremendous land and cruise combination tours, and I have never, ever, ever seen the added value of being able to double and triple down that you see right now. I'm just telling you straight out. So if you are considering a cruise and a tour to Alaska, the very best promotion of Explore 4 just ends in a couple of days, but that can be combined with the other onboard credits. Our job and our role as the cruise experts is to help you interpret value, to provide valuable advice and counsel. We are unbiased in our we want what is the best for you, because we know in the end result we want to know what experience you'd like to have. And I know when you pick up a brochure or you're researching online, you're trying to figure it all out, it can become very confusing and overwhelming. And so that's why you have real humans at the other end of the line that can help you and give you guidance and help you make decisions that are in your best interest. And so I would invite you to give us a call. We'd love to work with you. We would appreciate the opportunity to earn your business and your trust. You can reach us at 866-787-6866. You'll see it on the screen, 866 toll-free, 787-6866. 866, toll-free from all over the U.S. and Canada. Our team would love to have the opportunity to work with you and speak with you. So, Monty, I have, let's see, Julie, I don't know, let me take a look and see if any questions.
Wes, we have a couple questions. First one's from Humphrey. He wants to know what the sailing dates are for September. How far into September do Alaska cruises go?
They generally go, the cruises go right around the 15th of September, somewhere right in that time frame, depending on the year, because they always leave on either Saturday or Sunday. So right around the 15th of September are the latest ones. I would like to add, though, that I always like to encourage people, if you're going to do a land and sea journey, I would really invite you to have the land portion done by about Labor Day. And I'm telling you this just from long experience, in that it's not weather, but rather that so many of the folks who run the smaller tours, it doesn't pay for them to stay open past that. So you might miss some opportunities to do some of the more fun small tours if you go much later than Labor Day. Most of them have worked 100, 110 days in a row at that point. And so when business really drops off after Labor Day, they just close shop and call it a year. So that would be the only thing that I think you should be aware of. If you're going to do land, then I would have it done by about Labor Day.
Thank you.
Okay,
good answer.
Good to know. Leona has a question. Is there any way to add a visit to Kodiak?
Wes, do you want me to take that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
And I have
the only way that I know
of, I'll add on to it if we need to.
Okay. There is a 14-day cruise out of Seattle. It's a cruise only, but it does stop at Kodiak. Now, Leona, I'm going to guess that you're saying that because you would like to see bears, and I will be honest with you, Kodiak is not the place to see them. Although it is famous for them and they are the largest brown bears in the world, they're not really set up for visitors to go and see their bears. So you could fly into Anchorage and fly to Kodiak a day early or a couple of days early. I mean, it's not impossible, or you could go there on that 14-day cruise, but if that's the reason why you're asking, I would encourage you to consider, in all honesty, if that's what you'd really love to do, I would go out of Homer, Alaska. You fly in a couple of days early, go down to Homer. They have more bear viewing companies out of Homer because they actually go across the Cook Inlet over to the Alaska Peninsula, and they always know where the bears are. The bears kind of move. Early in the season, they are down eating grass, and then as the salmon start running up the streams, they congregate around the rivers. But since these folks fly over there every single day, you will have a wonderful bear experience, but I would suggest out of Homer.
Great to know, Monty. Thank you.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions that we have.
Well, terrific.
Wait,
ladies and
sorry,
gentlemen. Yeah, go ahead.
Wait, sorry, Wes. Leona has one more question. When is the salmon run?
The salmon actually, it runs all summer long. Kings run first early in May, and then there's a second run of Kings in July. By the end of May, the Reds have started running, and they run all the way well into August, and then Silvers and Pinks start running in late July and run through the rest of the season. So almost any time. If you're looking for the heaviest runs, that would either be the Reds or the Silvers. So if that's something that you'd really like to see, I would say late July into August is your very best time to come.
All right, great. That's it.
That's great, Monty. It was just a pleasure. I could go on for hours. We're very familiar with Alaska and consider ourselves to be very expert in that. But I always am a student and love to learn from those of you who have spent so much time there. So you've enriched us today, and I thank you very much for the presentation. And ladies and gentlemen, again, I just want to encourage you, if you haven't yet traveled to Alaska, or even if you have, it's very, very common to travel to Alaska more than once. You can do a cruise or a tour. Please allow us the opportunity to work with you. Again, we want you to have the type of experience that is best for you. You can call us here at CruiseExperts.com, 866-787-6866. You can be in touch with us by email. And remember that the very best value-added promotions end here in just a couple of days. And so if you're getting close to the point of knowing what you'd like to do, then now's the best time to call. Otherwise, we hope to be in touch with you over the next days and weeks and help you plan the trip to Alaska of a lifetime. Thanks once again for joining us. Signing off for now. Thank you, Monty. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be in touch. Bye-bye now.